All right, man, peace. So, brothers, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this whole Jimmy Butler situation, because I'm not quite sure if he has the self-awareness that he's going to need to have in order to maximize his earning potential, because his conduct is not congruent with his overall value. With him being the third best player on a championship level team and him going on 31 years old, I'm not quite sure if he realizes what his place is in the NBA. But even more pertinent than that to me is why this person, Rachel Nichols, is able to get all of these high-profile sit-down interviews. What exactly is she doing, or what is she giving these players in return for these sit-down interviews? Because she must be giving them something. She's the only reporter that I've seen in the NBA circles who gets sit-downs with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler. She basically gets whoever she wants. So she has to be giving them something. But anyway, Jimmy Butler, as we all know, in the aftermath of his blow-up at the Minnesota Timberwolves practice, decided to sit down with Rachel Nichols. It was already a scheduled interview, so that obviously means that Jimmy Butler purposefully blew up in the practice because he knew that he would be able to expose exactly what went down in the interview later that night and basically give his boo thing, Rachel Nichols, the scoop, or I should say the NBA's boo thing, Rachel Nichols. So anyway, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
Yesterday, I was out on assignment, scheduled to interview Jimmy Butler in his home of Minnesota. What I was not expecting was that emotional first practice with the Wolves. Look, a lot happened there. We have an exclusive extended version of our conversation with Jimmy, and there's stuff in here you haven't seen before. Take a listen. So, boy, you had an eventful day.
You say that.
You returned to practice for the first time with the Wolves, and I'm just gonna read a little bit of Adrian Wojnarowski's report on what happened there. That you were loud, emotional, passionate, we like to say, targeting Coach Tom Thibodeau, teammates like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins.
I don't think that he was targeting Tom Thibodeau. I think that he was using Tom Thibodeau as a sounding board, and Tom Thibodeau was a willing co-conspirator because Tom Thibodeau also understands that his two young quote-unquote stars, that being Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, they're soft. Just like Jimmy Butler says, just like how I've been saying for the last year or so. Everybody knows that they're soft, and if Jimmy Butler's not there, they're not going to win more than 35 games this year. So this really is a big mishmash. It's a big gumbo of fuckery going on right now with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Because Jimmy basically is in a situation where he's demanding to be paid like the best player on the team. They're not going to pay him like the best player on the team because he's 30 going on 31 years old. And they anticipate that Karl Anthony Towns is going to get better. Karl Anthony Towns, he can't be older than 22 years old right now. He's definitely the most talented player on the team and one of the most talented young big men in the NBA right now. But the problem is that you don't know how far he's going to go in regards to his mental maturity. And that's what Jimmy Butler's looking at. That's what makes the situation so awkward. Because Butler is the best player on the team right now. But he has nowhere to go but down. He's had injury issues already. And once again, he's going on 31. That is the narrative that is being pushed across the NBA, which is starting to hamper a lot of trade possibilities. So to make a long story short, it seems as though he's stuck there.
That you told GM Scott Layton, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it's true. A lot of it is true. But you got to think, I haven't played basketball in so long, and I'm so passionate in it.
When you say you haven't played basketball in so long, brother, you must mean organized basketball, a real practice. Because you've been getting runs all off season. So let's not make that excuse that the reason why you blew up is because you were so passionate that when you showed up at the Minnesota Timberwolves practice facility, you just could not contain yourself. The fact of the matter is that you knew that you were going to have this sit-down interview with Rachel Nichols. You wanted to give her something to talk about. You wanted to raise the profile of your trade request. You wanted to make it known all across the NBA circles and the sports world that you were going to be the grand initiator, the grand instigator, the agent of chaos with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if you did not get your way, you're going to continue to push and promote chaos and entropy in the locker room. You're going to try to make Karl Anthony Towns' life a living hell. Because you realized, as I've been stating for the longest time, that the reason why it took Karl Anthony Towns so long to re-sign or re-up was because he was waiting for you to get traded. He thought that you were going to be gone. That's all this is about. So your attitude is, I have everybody by the balls right now. I'm going to put them in such an uncomfortable position that they're going to feel like they have to trade me.
I love the game, and I don't do it for any other reason except for to compete and go up against the best to try to prove that I can hang. So all my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No. But I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me. Me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're going to get inside the lines. And
I was going to say, is it not the right way for it to come out? Do you think it was the wrong thing to do, or was it an okay thing to do?
I think that I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another.
Well, let me say this. 100% transparency and 100% honesty are not always good things. Sometimes you have to know how to couch certain words, certain sentiments, so that you can deliver your message better. I mean, every once in a while you do have to be 100% transparent, especially if you're dealing with a person who you've already tried to approach in a certain way and they're not as receptive as you feel like they need to be. And maybe that's the situation right now with Jimmy Butler and the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's already asked them to trade him. He's requested that he be moved, and they have not acquiesced to his request. So now he says to himself, okay, I'm just going to make myself a spectacle. I'm going to embarrass myself and the organization until I get what I want. I have more than enough money in the bank that I'm comfortable no matter what happens.
If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not going to take it offense. It's not personal. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you probably right. I would have said, I ain't hooped in I don't know how long. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I love the game and I love to win. And that's all I was out there doing, was competing. And right now, I know Tibbs. He's in there by himself. He locked his door and he's smiling. He's laughing. Tibbs, I know you, man. I know.
He might be laughing at that haircut you got, bro. What the hell's going on there?
I know you. He was like, yeah.
Do you think he's happy with what happened today?
Yeah.
So you were back in practice today. I assume you're going back tomorrow.
I am.
Should people think, because you are back in practice, that this is fixed or it's on its way to being fixed?
I think people think that. I would think that too.
What do you think?
It's not. It's not fixed. Let's just be honest. It's not fixed.
Is it fixable?
It could be. It could be.
In other words, it could be fixable if you make me the highest paid player on the team. That's really what that amounts to. And you know what, brother? I'm not mad at you because you have to get your money. You're 30 years old. This is going to be your last big contract. We all know that.
But do I think so? No. Because you got to be honest. I'm being honest. Do I think so? No. I'm being honest with you. But is everybody going to be honest? No.
I want to go back and talk about how we got to this point. But I do want to make it clear to everybody watching here, the collective bargaining agreement says that you cannot talk about wanting a trade, you cannot talk about asking someone for a trade, you will get heavily fined if you do that. We are not asking you to sit here and get fined. However, I am going to talk about published reports that are a matter of public record, that the report said that you said in meetings that you wanted to trade. So that is how we will have this conversation. And I want to go back because the first thing we saw of you publicly with Tibbs here in Minnesota was that press conference at the Mall of America. You guys are both riding so high, being back united with each other. You start the season.
Yes, Rachel Nichols, we see Jimmy Butler and Tom Thibodeau together, and we'll oftentimes see this in various relationship dynamics, where you have two people who just can't get enough of one another in whatever capacity it may be, because they're always looking at the potential for greatness as opposed to what has always been there, what has been real and tangible and existent, which is dysfunctionality. It's like two people who keep breaking up and making up, breaking up and making up, breaking up and making up. After a while, it just becomes very obvious that you're not meant to be together. The Tom Thibodeau, Jimmy Butler experiment is old, is hackneyed. It's never been fully successful anyway. Number one, I've been saying this for a very long time. I have no idea why Tom Thibodeau has a job as a head coach in the NBA. Number two, I have no idea why people thought that adding Jimmy Butler was going to take that team over the top. Now, when he was fully healthy last year, they had the third best record in the Western Conference. But it was very obvious to me that they were not going to be successful in the playoffs because they could not match outside jump shooting with either the Rockets or the Warriors. And at the end of the day, if you're a Jimmy Butler, once again, you're 30 years old. Either you're on a championship contender and or you're getting paid as much as you should be getting paid. especially for your age bracket. So this is what's making the situation so untenable for him. He has to find a better location for himself where he's going to be compensated according to how he feels is going to be commensurate with the respect that he believes he deserves as being one of the most hard-nosed players in the NBA. He has to get his money not now, but right now. And at the end of the day, if Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins are not going to be receptive to his style of leadership, then they should move him. But Thibodeau is not going to move him because he knows that the one glaring acquisition that he made was Jimmy Butler. So if he's forced to move him now, what does that say about him? What's left for him in Minnesota? How is Glenn Taylor going to view him after this?
When do you start to realize that things are going wrong or not the way that you want them to be?
It just all goes back to telling the truth and being honest with myself, with me being honest with them, with them being honest with me. And you just look at it. And the whole thing is, I just want to be appreciated. That's it.
Okay.
In other words, you want the max. That's what that comes down to. And there's another thing, man. You know, people think that when you tell someone the truth, that's supposed to bring you together. The truth does not bring you together with people. It separates you from people. There are very few people that your bond is going to get stronger by telling them the absolute truth. Sometimes you have to find little ways to make the truth more palatable. But at the end of the day, if you're speaking cold, hard truth to people, it oftentimes is going to put you and them at odds.
Okay.
It's not about anything else. Not the defense, not the points. It's the passion, the heart that I play with on every single possession. And that's all that it is.
We hear a lot of chatter about the Wolves locker room and the guys don't get along. What is the real story about what's going on in the locker room between you guys?
Everybody has to have winning as their number one priority. Everybody, winning is all that we're worried about.
Did you feel that that wasn't the case with everyone?
I'm not going to say no names, but I'm going to be honest.
Obviously, you're talking about Karl Anthony Towns, bro. Let's be for real. Since your platform is honesty, then be honest about it.
If your number one priority isn't winning and people can tell, that's the battle. Now there's a problem between people because that guy's number one priority is winning and that guy's isn't. Of course they're going to clash. Like, I'm doing it for the team. Are you? Exactly. So that's where the disconnect is.
In other words, what Jimmy Butler is saying is that he gives his all on defense and Karl Anthony Towns does not. Jimmy Butler is saying, I'm guarding 2 or 3 guys on the defensive end and I cannot count on you to have my back on defense. And it's well known that Karl Anthony Towns has been lambasted for his poor defense. And that oftentimes is how you reveal who's playing for stats as opposed to who's playing for the team. It's who's willing to play hard-nosed defense, who's willing to play help defense.
Butler, a step back three, is gone! Jimmy Butler, the drought is finally over.
You go through the season, you were hurt, came back, you guys had that stirring return to get into the playoffs. Playoff series against the number 1 seed.
That's a really good team too, by the way.
You didn't fly home with the rest of the team after the last game
Correct.
of your first round playoff series. After the season ended, did you talk to Coach Tibbs?
Yes, I did.
So when you guys talked even over the phone after the season was over,
He knows how I felt.
how soon after the season did you tell him how you feel?
4 days.
4 days after the season.
4.
How clear were you?
Have you ever known me to hide anything?
I'm just asking.
Look what happened today at practice.
I know.
Have you ever known me to hold back? No. I was completely honest about everything.
And about what you wanted and where you wanted to be. And he has 2 jobs here, right? So he's the coach of the team. He's also the president of the team. So through the summers, you guys are also talking about contract stuff. And they offered you an extension that would have given you 4 years, $110 million. The reports are that you wanted something that was going to, if they had moved some other pieces around and freed up more money, that you would have gotten a renegotiation that would have given you a shorter term of the contract, but more money. Is all that accurate?
It's accurate, but it's not even righteous. It's not about money.
Stop lying, bro. Stop lying. Your platform has been truth, allegedly, for this entire segment and supposedly for the entirety of your career. It's about the money. So when you said it's about the respect, you're saying that it's about the money. Because if you want to be considered the alpha on that team, you're going to have to be paid more than Karl Anthony Towns, or at least somewhere in the ballpark. so that you can give him orders as opposed to having conversations with him. That's where you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable because you're barking at him, but he's just putting his head down because he knows that he's the future. If they were to give you max dollars or somewhere near max dollars, you know that you could bark at him. Tom Thibodeau could bark at him. You guys could be in tandem, and he'll have to listen, especially now that he signed the extension. And that's going to be the conundrum for Karl-Anthony Towns. Right now, he's like, yo, I signed this extension with the condition that this dude was going to be traded. Now you're telling me that he might still be here. So don't be surprised if they cannot move Jimmy Butler and you hear rumblings about Karl-Anthony Towns demanding a trade somewhere down the line. Don't be shocked.
So tell me what it's about.
It's about like saying, we need you. We want you here. We can't do this without you. And that was the disconnect all year long. Like you're saying one thing and you're saying it and you're saying it and you're saying it. I mean, I've learned enough times in life that, you know, saying something is completely different than acting upon it.
I agree with that, bro.
Say actions speak louder than words, whatever quote you want to use. And when it came to that point, it was like, I let y'all know what the deal was as soon as you traded for me. I told you the truth from day one, and I will continue to do it. And I did it. And it's kind of like, I don't know, slap in the face. I don't know how to put it, but it made me think like, maybe I'm not that important to your organization. That is how I took it.
How often through the summer did you communicate how you felt?
All the time. Anytime, Tibbs, you call, you text me, to an extent, I was always answering.
Same answer.
Every time.
So this doesn't really get reported through the summer. And then, boom, a week before training camp, here come all the reports. Jimmy Butler asked for a trade.
It wasn't a week before. You know, we've been talking all summer long. Everybody knew the truth throughout the organization, because I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether like it or not, it wasn't just then. So we can put that to rest. It was not just.
I'll say this, though, Jimmy Butler. It wasn't until you went public with your trade demands that we saw Karl-Anthony Towns put his name on the dotted line for that extension. So there was certainly some correlation there. You may have asked for the trade right after the season, but it's very obvious that Karl-Anthony Towns was not aware of it, because I find it to be a little bit too much to be called coincidence that all of a sudden, once you go public with your trade request, that he signs the re-up on his deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
It's not just that.
I will say, when all those stories came out and the headlines were Jimmy Butler asked for a trade, social media went crazy, and you know what the NBA is like. Instagram, Twitter, it's like the school cafeteria. And they kind of became Mean Girls, where it was sort of, okay, Andrew Wiggins' brother says this.
These memes are crazy, though. Like that.
And you posted your, keep that same energy, which I would
He
like
still
to.
got to see me. He still got to see me.
What you gonna do when you see him, Jimmy? You gonna headbutt him with that shit on top of your head?
If I suit up and I walk that, he's going to be in the back, and I'm going to confront him about it. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to be like, tell me how you feel. Like, and the whole thing is, people do things because they thought I was going to be gone. Just be honest.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was thinking.
So all this stuff comes out, and Tibbs obviously feels, and he said publicly, I think we can fix this. I don't think we have to trade him. You two have talked a few times. You've talked in person a few times. Mm-hmm. What is he communicating to you as all this is going on?
What he's communicating is, when he says we could fix this, he's saying, Jimmy, I need you to work with me on this because my job is on the line. I'm directly tethered to you in regards to my future here with the Timberwolves. So if you keep demanding a trade and I have to acquiesce to a trade, I cannot get back equal value for you because it's already known that you want out. If I don't get back equal value, Glenn Taylor's going to fire my ass at the end of the season. That's what all that amounts to.
That everything is moving along. That's what he's saying. We know where your mind is at. We're doing everything that we can, yada, yada, yada. But everybody's really, really, really positive about the whole thing. But I know the truth. I know the truth. I know the whole truth. I know what I did. I know who I am to my core. Jimmy's a bad leader. Give it all here. I'll take it. But when you go around that locker room and you ask those guys who you want to play with, I'm telling you, nobody in that locker room is going to say that he's a bad teammate, that he's a bad guy. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think Karl-Anthony Towns might say something different. I think that he might say something different, but at the end of the day, the numbers speak louder than anything that any of your teammates could say. And the numbers say that when you were at the helm, when you were the leader of the team, when you were out there on the floor leading your team on both offense and defense, they were a far better team.
But that's how I look at it, and that's why you get the quotes that is all over the internet from me today, because I felt the type of way. I held it in. I haven't said anything to anybody. It's my first interview, right?
Yep.
I haven't said anything to anybody. And it comes out.
Yeah.
It comes out. So that's what it's all about. I just wanted to feel wanted.
But anyway, we'll see what goes on with Mr. Jimmy Butler as this season goes along. I think that eventually Minnesota will probably move him, most likely because they'll have to. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe they won't move him. It'll directly be correlated with how Jimmy Butler conducts himself in the locker room and in the practice facility. If he calms down, if he starts to get any rumblings that they're going to reimburse him for his contributions to the team in a way that he feels like is reflective of what he feels he's bringing to the team, then maybe he'll quiet down. We'll see. But as of right now, I think that they're still going to move him. It's just a matter of time. I think that Glenn Taylor is going to put a lot of pressure on Thibodeau to move him, especially if Jimmy Butler decides that he's going to wage war with Karl Anthony Towns in the locker room. But anyway, peace.